So, the Switch 2 has been out for about a week now, and I got it on release day at the midnight launch event. I've been playing it every single day and really trying to get the most use out of this, playing all the games, trying out the new features, doing everything I can with it to really get a grasp on this system. And I think my thesis for the whole thing is that the Switch 2 is exactly what you'd think it would be. Now, I'm not saying that in any negative way, really, but I'm saying it to be a fact that the name Switch 2, the branding of the Switch 2, and the image that comes to mind when you imagine a Switch 2 or the next Switch, that's exactly what this thing is. And I kind of want to talk about that. This isn't so much a review of the system as much as it is a overview of my experience of it so far and some general thoughts on it. So I've been really looking forward to the Switch 2 for quite a while now. I mean, I love the Switch 1. I think it's probably my favorite console of all time. And so obviously, very excited for the Switch 2. I picked it up at the midnight release event. I bought it with the Mario Kart World bundle, as well as a copy of Street Fighter 6 and the Switch 2 Pro Controller. So I was really getting in on this thing. I've been trying some other Switch 2 exclusive things. I've been playing the Switch 2 edition of Breath of the Wild. I've been trying the GameCube games on the Nintendo Switch Online service, and just trying to get a feel for everything here. And I think the first thing that struck me about the Switch 2 when I opened up that box was just how big this thing is. I obviously had known for a while that this thing was going to be an 8-inch display, and I saw the comparison images online, and that was all well and good, but getting it actually in my hands really shocked me just how big this thing is. Now, I've been kind of worried that this thing would be too big for me. I prefer my handhelds to be on the smaller side, more pocketable, just easier to carry around with you, and this thing is definitely not that. I will say, over the course of this past week, I've been getting more comfortable with this device, and the largeness of it actually doesn't shock me as much anymore. I feel like I've gotten a lot more used to its size as well as its weight. And so, while I do still think that this is a bit large for at least my taste, it's undeniable that there's some benefit to having a screen this size. I mean, you can just see everything much more clearly. It's so vibrant. I played this thing on a plane, and having this larger display in your hands when you're in this environment where it's kind of noisy, you don't really want to be there, it really allows you to get sucked into whatever you're playing. So obviously there's a lot of benefits to the larger display. I think the next thing that really surprised me just straight out of the box with this thing is how smooth the Joy-Con sticks are. I mean, the Joy-Con sticks and the Pro Controller sticks are just buttery smooth. They feel really, really, really good. I'm praying that these things don't get drift, because I really don't want to have to replace these with some third-party sticks or whatever it may be, because these feel so nice right now. I have to call out all the freaking people who got their hands on this device though early and tried it out at different events and stuff. Mouse mode. We have to talk about mouse mode. So the Switch 2 has this feature where if you put the Joy-Con on a surface like this, you can use it like a computer mouse. So you can hold it sort of upright, and in various games and things, you can use it like a computer mouse. And I don't know what people were saying when they were trying this thing out at these events. It's not very comfortable. I really cannot see many people using this thing, at least as it is. And it's not about the sensor. The sensor is quite good on here. The problem is the Joy-Con just isn't comfortable in the same way that a computer mouse is. I mean, I have, alright, this is kind of a weird computer mouse because it's my ergonomic mouse that I use to try and make sure I don't get carpal tunnel. But you see how your hand wraps around the whole thing. It gives you this nice place for your palm just to rest. It feels like I don't know, clasping your hand around, I don't know, someone else's hand or something like that. The Joy-Con, obviously, the way that it's designed, is very flat. It's very thin, and so there is no real place for your palm to really rest. Now, when I'm holding it like this, it's okay because my fingers wrap around the side and it feels okay. But when I'm doing it like this, my fingers just kind of have to rest on the surface a little to the side, and it just doesn't feel very comfortable. I don't feel like I have a good grasp of this thing when I'm attempting to use mouse mode. I'm expecting third parties and other manufacturers to create some grips for the Switch 2 Joy-Con to have mouse mode feel more comfortable, and I think we're already starting to see that happen in the 3D printing space, but it's yet to be determined how usable that's going to be or how widespread those are going to be. Mouse mode, I'm not really feeling mouse mode. Like I said, this isn't really a review of this thing so much as a my thoughts video on this thing. So I'm not going to go over all the tech specs and all the fancy little features. I just kind of want to talk about the little things I've noticed with the Switch 2 that are little improvements over the Switch 1 and things that I have grown to appreciate about this device over this past week. So one thing that I think a lot of people have been talking about, especially when it was first unveiled, is that the UI is basically the same as the Switch 1. I mean, there's very little that's different about it. However, I do appreciate the little cute sound effects and things that they've changed about this device, and just overall making it feel a touch more charming. Obviously, it would have been nice to see themes or just an entire UI overhaul to make it a little bit, I don't know, cooler looking. But as it stands, I do actually like some of those little changes. Something else that's really nice about the UI that I haven't seen anyone mention is that if you hit the screenshot button and then immediately hit the home button, it'll take you directly to your screenshot rather than taking you to the home menu and then you have to navigate to the gallery page and then look at your screenshot. It just takes you there directly, and I feel like that's a really subtle thing, but it's really, really nice because so often I take a video capture on the Switch and then I immediately want to go and trim it down or do something with it, just look at it again. And this just saves you an extra button press or two. It's a small thing, but I really liked it, and when I noticed it, I was like, oh, that's really smart. One thing I really, really appreciate is how much better the Switch 2 eShop is. Everyone knows the Switch 1 eShop was kind of terrible. No one really wanted to go on there because it was so slow and clunky. Now it's really fast, it's really smooth. They have this recommendations page where they show you new games you might be interested in. When you go up to a game and you hover over it, it'll actually play the game's trailer, which is super slick, super, super nice. And if you go into your wish list, you can actually organize it by games that are on sale, which is, again, really, really nice. Kind of dangerous. I feel like I'm going to end up spending way more money on this eShop compared to the first one. And, you know, I guess that's a good thing for Nintendo. This is also something I noticed while I was on the plane. The Bluetooth audio settings are actually in the quick menu now. When you first pair them, you have to go deeper into the settings and pair it and do all that stuff. But the next time you want to connect them, they just have it right here in the quick menu, which was something I desperately wanted on the Switch 1 because it was so annoying having to navigate deep into the settings to connect your headphones every single time. Now it's just smoother, snappier, more akin to like how you connect headphones on a smartphone. Now, of course, I've been playing a lot of Switch 2 games on here. I've been playing Mario Kart World, I've been playing Street Fighter 6, but a big thing about the Switch 2 launch is also the Switch 1 games that you can play on here that are now improved. Obviously, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom got those patches, as well as just some free patches for different games like Link's Awakening and Splatoon 3. And playing Switch 1 games on here is really interesting. Obviously, stuff like Zelda and Splatoon, which got the updates, look really, really nice on here, and they've been improved to take advantage of higher frame rates, higher resolutions, and various new Switch 2 things. But playing OG Switch 1 games that don't have any updates is also kind of interesting. Some of them, if their settings, I guess, are configured correctly, can take advantage of some of these features like higher frame rates and stuff. Most of them can't, and so they just kind of are blown up on this bigger screen at the same resolution. To mixed results. You know, sometimes games look better just because they're bigger, and that's appreciated. Other times, it really makes it apparent the jagged edges, the low resolution, all the little things that you wouldn't have noticed on the original Switch are now made much more apparent on this much nicer screen. But that's not the case with all the games, and obviously stuff like Breath of the Wild looks really, really good on here. However, I will say, does Breath of the Wild need to be higher resolution and higher frame rate? honestly, I'm playing through the Switch 2 edition, and I'm, messing around, I'm seeing all the different things, and it's very nice to see that the Korok Forest doesn't chug the system down a whole lot. And the camera is so smooth when you're turning it around and stuff. But when I really think about it, and when I think about how people have been talking about how this is absolutely mind-blowing, absolutely game-changing for Breath of the Wild, and while I agree it is very, very nice, it's not really that important to me. I don't know, I never really had a problem with Breath of the Wild on the Switch 1. I feel like it ran great, it looked great. I don't really need it to be higher resolution and higher frame rate, and that's kind of how I feel about a lot of these updates. It's where I look at them and I'm like, yes, this is nice, and I can appreciate and I do notice these things. It's not like I'm blind to it. I guess all that is to say is that if you are excited by the prospect of those things, I'm sure you'll really benefit from them. But if you don't really know what 60 FPS and higher textures, higher resolution textures, and all these jargon, what all that stuff means, you're probably not going to get much out of it unless you delve into the Zelda Notes stuff on the Switch Online app, which, gotta say, that stuff's really annoying. I wish that stuff was built into Breath of the Wild, but regardless, I should just move on from this point. I guess one thing I forgot to mention is that pretty much across the board, load times are better on the Switch 2 for these Switch 1 games, and one game that you really, really feel it in is Minecraft. I booted up Minecraft on here after hearing about how there's improved load times, and this was like my test to see how much better they are, and it is a world of difference. I never wanted to load up Minecraft on the Switch because I knew that it would take like a year before you would even jump into your world. Now, the load times are so much faster, it's so much better. There's obviously still like dumb Microsoft stuff, which they can't really be helped because it's all related to the internet, but the actual world loading speeds, so much better. It actually makes me want to play the game. That is huge, and it's huge for a lot of these different games that had really bad load times on the original Switch. Oh yeah, GameCube. There's GameCube on here. I've been playing a little GameCube on here. It's been kind of nice, kind of fun. Right now there's only 3 games. It's Soul Calibur, F-Zero GX, and Wind Waker. And Wind Waker is probably the best game on there. It's the most meaty game that you can sink your teeth into. Honestly, I would probably wait until there's more stuff on here because I don't know if just those 3 games alone are worth the cover price of Switch Online expansion pack. Honestly, I've been having more fun jumping into the N64 games because up until now I haven't had the expansion pack, and those have been a lot of fun to play on here, but that's old news. We're here to talk about GameCube. So I'm kind of rambling at this point, so I feel like I should kind of conclude my thoughts. And, well, it really does come down to what the title of this video is. The Switch 2 is exactly what you think it is. It is a larger, bigger screen, nicer display, higher resolution, more powerful version of the Switch. And that's the only thing it really needed to be, It didn't need to be some revolutionary new thing. It didn't need to completely change how the Switch works. It's basically the Switch 1, but better. And that's really good. That's, I think, the only thing anyone ever really wanted from this thing is to just be a better Switch. I think the most direct comparison you could have with the Switch 1 to the Switch 2 is like upgrading your iPhone. You go from the iPhone 15 to the iPhone 16, and it's like, yeah, it's an improvement, the camera's nicer, the processor is nicer, but at the end of the day, you're still, still an iPhone. You're not really like peeing your pants being like, oh my god, everything's different. No, everything's kind of the same, And honestly, that's a bit of a mean comparison even for the Switch, because I do think the Switch 2 does a lot more than your average iPhone upgrade. But at the end of the day, that's kind of what it feels like. I think the Switch 2 is going to be very successful. We're already seeing it be very successful, but I think the wider populace, the more casual gamer, is going to jump on this thing once we get some larger, hard-hitting titles, a brand new Zelda game in the style of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, that series, or the next 3D Mario game, or whatever the big franchise is for people to jump onto, the thing that's going to make them go, alright, fine, I'll upgrade. But honestly, the Switch 2, as nice as it is, as much as I'm loving it, as much as I adore this thing, because obviously all the things that make it special are what appeal to me and other people like me who are really, really into this stuff. There's not anything like particularly ground-shatteringly exciting about this thing. And honestly, that's okay. You know, the PS4 to the PS5, not earth-shatteringly different. It's kinda just a souped-up PS4. And this, at least as it is right now, is kinda just a souped-up Switch 1, and I think that's okay. You know, I think that's what I want. I'm excited to see these Switch 1 games get these updates. I'm excited to play them and experience them in a whole new light with improved visuals and improved frame rates. And so, yeah, I like the Switch 2. I'm not, my mind's not being blown by it, but I like it a lot, and I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I cannot wait to have more games released for it and newer, improved ports. I have a whole wish list of games I want to see come to this thing that could not be possible on Switch 1. And yeah, those are my thoughts on the Switch 2 a week in. But those are just my thoughts. If you picked up a Switch 2 and have been playing it and enjoying it, or not enjoying it, please do let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I love to hear everyone's thoughts on these new systems. Obviously, it's very exciting to be here at the start of a new generation of Nintendo. You know, I started this channel right about when the Switch 1 launched, and so it feels kind of surreal to be here much older, much hopefully better at making these videos. I don't know, you can tell me down below if these are better than my original videos. But yeah, I'm excited to keep up with the system and hopefully have more videos for you guys. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed, the like button, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and I'll see you all later. Peace.